but was called by many in the ultra-Orthodox community an apostate. So one man's apostate is the other man's, devout Jew. So I suppose it just depends on the eyes of the beholder, not so much the person himself.
When you're officiating in an interfaith wedding, are you also officiating, in some sense, at a Jewish funeral?
In what way?
In all likelihood, this person who's intermarrying, the Jew who's intermarrying, is moving away from the Jewish people, and it's unlikely that his descendants will identify as Jewish.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that type of categorical statement is true. I think that every time people get married, there is the question as to how they're going to raise their children. If you have, one way of looking at it is if you have two Jews that marry each other and produce two children and raise them, and maybe raise them as Jewish, because it's always a maybe, then you'll have two Jews. But if you have, two Jews that marry non-Jews and decide to raise their children as Jewish, and each has two children, well, then you would have four Jews. So, I didn't make up that argument. That's from Rabbi Adam Shalom, who's the humanistic rabbi in Chicago. It's not the way that we're usually conditioned by more traditional Jews to look at it, but if you think about it, that makes sense. And also, you've got to think about the following. And I say this to my colleagues all the time. Do you think that because you refuse to marry them, because you say no, they're just going to say, "Oh, shucks, yeah, we shouldn't get married"? No. So here's your choice. So here's your choice. Your choice is to turn them away, and possibly or likely cause them to become less connected than they already are, or your choice is to say, you know what, I will marry them. Now don't get me wrong, that's not the reason I officiate interfaith weddings. I officiate interfaith weddings because I am a humanist, and my humanistic point of view is that there's nothing wrong with that, and that two people that are in love with each other and want a rabbi, well, I'm going to provide that for them. But I'm saying, even from the point of view of people who think, well, they shouldn't be getting married, you've got to be naive to think that you, by saying no, are going to be the one who, are going to be the one who causes them to become closer to Judaism. If anything, you're going to cause the opposite.
What are the most common questions you get about Jews or Judaism when you officiate at interfaith weddings?
What are the most common questions?
Maybe there are no common questions. Maybe they're all unique. But
yeah, I don't know that there are any really common questions. People, the one really interesting thing is that people will say to me, and frequently it's Jews too, will say to me, that was a beautiful ceremony. I understood what was going on. I never understood why X happened, but now that I've been to your ceremony, I understand it. And I get a lot from Jews too, because it seems to be that many of my colleagues, I'm not trying to disparage anyone, but many of my colleagues, and I probably did the same when I was Orthodox, just do the ceremony and don't really explain what's going on. And people may think that most Jews understand what happens in a wedding ceremony. Many don't. And so, I look at every ceremony I do as an educational opportunity so people will understand, why we do this custom and why we do that custom. And so I include various explanations. And again, I find the non-Jews really liking it, but also the Jews saying, wow, thanks for explaining that, because I never knew and I was just shy to ask.
Do you often get asked why most Jews and rabbis why there's so much Jewish opposition to interfaith marriage, or why most rabbis won't do interfaith marriage? Do you get asked about that?
Well, I'm glad you amended that towards the end, because most...
Yeah, I didn't mean most Jews. Yeah. I mean, organizers.
Yeah. Do I get asked about that a lot? I don't, because I don't think most people even know I mean, I was meeting today with a former member of the Dallas City Council. So, somebody who's, fairly educated, public servant. And when and she said, "Wait a minute, rabbis don't do interfaith weddings?" She was like, really, she didn't know. I mean, because people think that it once upon a time was an issue, but now we're past it, and so, it's not an issue anymore, right? So you're not unique, are you? And they're kind of weirded out by the whole thing that, oh yeah, most rabbis won't do this. Yeah, most non-Jews are totally, I wouldn't say shocked, but are very much surprised that it's still an issue.
Because I'm an Orthodox Jew, and every Orthodox Jew I know would regard interfaith marriage as a horror. And so most of the world isn't that way.
Well, yeah, I'm saying I understand that. I understand, but yes, I'm not asked a whole lot of. If anything, I'm asked why. Well, why won't rabbis do that? And I just explain. Hey, it's the. Their eyes glaze over halfway through this, but I say Orthodox and to an extent conservative Jews follow Jewish law, and Jewish law does not allow it. So that's why they don't do it, and other people have a different view of the obligatory nature of Jewish law, though most Reform rabbis on this issue still remain fairly conservative. So, that's how I explain it. But yeah, the questions are usually not why do you do it, but rather, what's up? What do you mean you're one of the only guys that does it? Why is that?
Do you ever sense the person who wants you to officiate at their interfaith wedding? Do you ever sense them questioning whether you're being authentic to the rabbinate and to Judaism when you oversee their wedding? Do you ever sense any trepidation, questioning, doubt, or they're just thrilled?
From the people that I officiate for, no, I've never really run into that. And actually, most Reform rabbis, in my area, are at the point where, hey, I may disagree with this, but it's actually good that you do it, and so they will refer people to me when they're not comfortable doing it. So I even can tell you, and I can't mention names because this person said it, not to be quoted, but a very, very prominent rabbi on the East Coast said to a family that it's really good that, and I'm talking Orthodox rabbi, ultra-Orthodox rabbi, said, I can never be quoted on this, but it's a good thing that there are people out there like Gruber who do this, because that means that we're still showing the Jewish partner that they are part of us. We still love them. We still want them to be part of the Jewish people. So I think even some Orthodox and conservative rabbis out there recognize, hey, I can't do this. I don't believe in doing this. But you know what? This is the reality we're living with today, and it's good that these people have somebody they can go to if they do want Judaism to be part of their wedding. Now, again, that's not the reason I do it, but I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, there's a very sophisticated push-pull thing going on in Judaism. It pushes people away if they don't conform, but there's also you push them away with one hand and you bring them back with the other.
Yeah, but see, people have so many choices today that I don't think that strategy works very well. They talk about the fact that, and this is, without getting into a whole kettle of fish here. The whole